Okay students, now we'll continue with the radius bone. Now this radius bone is also a long bone which is having its upper end. This one is the lower end and this one is the shaft. Okay. Now this is homologous to tibia in the lower limb. Now this radius bone in the upper end we can see. Okay, we are doing the side determination. Now in the upper end we can see it is round and it is disc shaped with a concavity, and this concavity is filled with hyaline cartilage. Below this head is very constricted part. This is the neck of radius, and just near the neck we can see this one tuberosity. This is radial tuberosity which will lie on the medial side. So in the upper end we have the head which is disc shaped, then we have neck, then we have radial tuberosity, and then we will continue with the shaft, followed by the lower end which is expanded. Now this expanded part on the lateral side, this part is called as styloid process, and further the lower end will have further 5 surfaces which we'll discuss later. Now how to determine the side? Always look for the upper end which should be disc shaped, so it should always lie on the upper aspect. This upper end, disc shaped head of radius will articulate with the capitulum of the humerus to form radiohumeral joint. Apart from that, we will also see on the medial side. Now the articular surface of ulna, for the ulna will lie on the medial side, which will form superior radioulnar joint. So over here there is one. We have one cavity. Now we have articulating facet, which will articulate with the ulna to form superior radioulnar joint. And this round disc shaped and the part of the ulna which is articulating here, it is all enclosed in a ligament which is called as annular ligament. And this annular ligament also encloses the neck. And within that annular ligament, we will see the movements at the level of superior radioulnar joint. Now followed by, we have radial tuberosity. It is roughened on the posterior aspect and it is smooth on the anterior aspect, and the posterior and anterior aspect are separated by one bursa. Now lower end, what we see for in order to determine the side, look at the surfaces of the lower end. It has 5 surfaces. One is anterior surface. Now this lower end is expanded. Now we have anterior surface over here. Then this lateral aspect will prolong downwards and it will form the styloid process on the lateral side. Then moving to the posterior surface of the lower end. This we are discussing the lower end. On the lower end we have very prominent tubercle. This tubercle is called as Lister's tubercle. This tubercle, it is Lister's tubercle. So this should always lie on the posterior side. So this one is the Lister's tubercle. Then on the this one is the medial surface, and it is bearing one facet where the ulnar head will articulate to form inferior radioulnar joint. So mark it above. Superiorly we had superior radioulnar joint, and inferiorly we have inferior radioulnar joint. So the movements of supination and pronation are occurring at these 2 joints. So inferior radioulnar joint, we have facet, articulating facet for ulnar head. Always remember, ulnar head will lie downwards, whereas radial head is always lying upwards. Then we have inferior surface. This one is the inferior surface. On the lateral side you can see this one is triangular. This facet is for scaphoid bone. Again, a scaphoid bone is a carpal bone. Then we have a quadrangular facet, and this quadrangular facet, this is articulating surface for lunate bone. So altogether, radius inferior surface of radius will articulate with scaphoid bone and lunate bone, and it will participate in the formation of wrist joint. So this is about the inferior surface, lower end of the radius, which have 5 surfaces. Moving to the shaft. Now shaft will have 3 surfaces and 3 borders. As we can see over here, this one is the radial tuberosity. Now the radial tuberosity, marking from here, we start with one margin extending from anterior on the anterior aspect and extending downwards till the styloid process. So this line which I drew is the anterior border. So this one is the anterior border. Another border which is very prominent and very sharp is the medial border. So this one is the medial border which is very sharp. Now this is sharp and this is giving attachment to the interosseous membrane. So we can call this medial border as interosseous border also. This is also one way of demarcating the side of the bone. Always look for the sharp border. The sharp border of radius should always face medially. So this one is the medial oblique interosseous border. So this one is the anterior border. Over just below the radial tuberosity, it is going a bit oblique. So this line is also called as anterior oblique line. This line is also called as anterior oblique line. The mirror image is the posterior border. Now anterior border की exactly mirror image है the posterior border, which is more prominent in the middle part. At this middle aspect it is very prominent and it will also extend downwards. So this one over here is the posterior border, which is actually the mirror image of the anterior border. Now three borders in we have three surfaces which are lying in relation to the three borders. Now we can easily identify the anterior border which through this anterior oblique line. So this one is the anterior border. Now this one is the interosseous border. In the surface between them is the anterior surface. So this one is the anterior surface of the shaft of radius. Now we have anterior border again, and below posteriorly we have posterior border. So this surface is the lateral surface. So this surface is the lateral surface. Then we have interosseous border or the medial border, and then we are left with the posterior border. So this surface is the posterior surface. So mark it again. The surface between the anterior border and the interosseous border is the anterior surface. The surface between anterior border and posterior border is the lateral surface, and interosseous or the medial border and the posterior border is the posterior surface. I hope I am clear till here for the surfaces. Now we have discussed the surfaces and the borders of the shaft of the radius. We have discussed the upper end, we have discussed the radial tuberosity, and we have discussed the lower end with its 5 surfaces. Now coming to the attachments. Coming to the attachments of the radius. Since we discussed this one is the anterior surface with the anterior oblique line. This anterior oblique line over here will give attachment to a muscle called as flexor pollicis longus. Always remember, this one is the anterior surface of the radius. Anterior surface always relate with the flexor compartment, because this is lying in our body in this this is of left side. So this is lying in our body in this relation. So this anterior surface will always correspond to the attachment of the muscles of flexor compartment. So all the muscles of the flexor compartment will take origin, not all, but a few muscles from the flexor compartment will take origin from the anterior surface. So one of them originating from the anterior oblique line and the anterior border is the radial head of flexor digitorum superficialis. Once again, anterior oblique line and the anterior border will give origin to the radial head of flexor digitorum superficialis. Then we have anterior surface. This will give origin to the flexor pollicis longus, the upper two-third part. The upper two-third part will give origin to the this one. Upper two-third will give origin to the flexor pollicis longus. So upper two-third is giving origin to the flexor pollicis longus. Now we are left with lower one-third, means this part. Now there is not an origin, but there is an insertion of the muscle which is called as pronator quadratus. So lower one-third of the anterior surface of the radius receives an insertion of the muscle called as pronator quadratus. So anterior surface, we are done with the attachments. Moving to the lateral surface. So this surface, I am coloring it with the different color. This one is the lateral surface, means between the anterior border and the posterior border. So this one is the lateral surface. So just beginning from the lower margin of the radial tuberosity. Now let us divide this lateral surface into three parts: upper 1/3, middle 1/3 and lower 1/3. Upper 1/3, middle 1/3 and lower 1/3. Upper 1/3 will receive the insertion of supinator muscle. Upper 1/3 is receiving the insertion of supinator muscle. Now this muscle is from the extensor compartment. Middle 1/3 is receiving the insertion of pronator teres, and this is actually an antagonist of supinator, because supinator does the supination, whereas pronator teres is initiating the pronation. So middle 1/3 of the lateral surface of the radius receives the insertion of pronator teres. Lower 1/3 will receive the insertion of brachioradialis. Now brachioradialis is again the muscle, we consider it from the extensor compartment. So lateral surface, we have three insertion above. Upper 1/3 is supinator, then middle 1/3 pronator teres, and lower 1/3 is the we have brachioradialis. So three insertion. You can remember it by SPB. S for supinator, P for pronator teres, and B for brachioradialis. And over here it is very important because we can feel on this lower end, just nearby the styloid process, lower end of the anterior surface, we feel the radial artery pulsations. So this is important from the clinical aspect. Now we are left with the posterior surface. As I told you, this posterior surface will correspond to the extensor compartment over here. So muscles from the extensor origin, muscles of extensor compartment will have an attachment from the posterior aspect of the posterior surface of the radius. Now beginning with the attachments on the posterior surface of the radius, because this will correspond with the extensor compartment. So we have the origin for extensor abductor pollicis longus and extensor pollicis brevis will take origin from the posterior surface of the radius.